phase 4. Yeah. And just because he was in the right place at the right time, had, whatever.
So do you understand the phases of clinical trials? Like, because I know you guys have. Could I? So phase 1 is very briefly, like phase 1 is we don't know. So phase 1 is a drug that's pretty novel and they really don't know what the benefit is.
Yeah.
I would argue to make such a big decision, you want at least a phase 2. Yeah, because phase 2 means there's been a lot of clinical evidence that it's likely really beneficial and they're trying to. So phase 1, they don't know.
Yeah.
Phase 2 is we know it's helpful, but we're trying to figure out dosing.
Yeah.
Phase 3 is when we're really refining it and usually giving it against another treatment.
Yeah.
So I would argue, I always think, what would I do? Phase 1 would be a really hard sell for me to move somewhere, and a placebo control trial would be a really hard sell. So that means you may. So those are the things you want to know, right? Yeah.
Wish you take that.
Yeah. So Wesley's gonna ask me all kinds of questions, or else you got to remember.
Oh, yeah.
So I will say, he should let you know sort of what options he had before.
Yeah. Because I said I don't mind going whatever the cost is.
Yeah.
For, if he feels that it's worth my while to go.
Right.
But like I said to Christopher and Bethany, you can't go all over the world looking for an option. No. And if it's going to benefit you, by a few weeks.
Yeah. So we were saying to Chris that Malcolm Moore emailed me. I just felt really lovely because he's a big grower, and I said, thank you, sir. But he was very genuine in his answer in terms of it's similar to what he said, is that he doesn't have any clinical trials that have a big benefit. And he recommended that she not go there. Yeah.
And I said to Christopher, I know Christopher was frustrated with that.
Yeah.
Well, I just thought, in terms of maybe they might not have any benefits, but to me, it sounds very weird that a clinician would say, well, we don't have anything that has any benefits then. So it's like, why do you have this mass amount of funding and mass enrollment in these clinical trials if you can't even speak positively about any of it, right?
I don't think it's not that he's not speaking positively, but they still want you to care, to be realistic.
Realistic, yeah.
It's I'm sure if there were a clinical trial that he could say to me, Heather, or Dr. Armstrong could say, anybody could say to me, Heather, you take this and, or a guarantee, or,
That's the downside of Newfoundland, though, that if you lived in Toronto, and God forbid we run out of chemo options, you probably would try a trial.
Yeah, right.
Yes, because, again, there's no other options, and you're not. I think the big thing is having to reroll.
And even for me,
Yep. There's just such a paucity of trials, though. It's astounding if that's the country. There's just not.
And what I'm finding too is when we're applying for the trials, it's especially the advocacy associations and stuff like that. It's no problem for them to match you up with the trial, right? But when the conversation turns to okay, can you tell me why you think this trial specifically or any of these trials would be beneficial for me? Then it's we matched it. So that's pretty much the.
That AI thing that you sent me is really interesting, but it doesn't include the actual exclusion and inclusion criteria. Yeah. So, and again, I wish there was someone in our center and in many centers that actually that's their whole job, right?
Yeah, that's what I drew. The Monday night on my crazy policy, I said, it's overwhelming when you get I just took this today to read, because I didn't know how long every wait.
Yeah.
But it's overwhelming. And I got a little bit of medical background. But still, imagine for Barry now, just to sit down and take all that. Or Christopher has no medical background, and I'm amazed that he's learned as much as he has.
But it's with the. So there's HAT-GBT, right?
Yeah.
And they have a 3.5, but there's a paid one that's 4, which is the next one. And you can basically feed it medical records and get it to create a patient profile. And then since it can access clinical trials and Gov, it can go and
search for you.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Obviously you need to check it over. Am I going to trust the thing, right? But it does mean it's much power.
Trials.gov, as you know, you have to really click into it and look at.
So, but it's overwhelming for me. That's why it says they need to have somebody, because I realize as well, my God, you could be sitting down with someone for 2 hours going over all these trials. This is the criterion. So there has to be somebody that's their sole job, because if not, nobody can do that. Nobody can do that. And this is something
Yeah.
to bring out in.
It changes very rapidly too. They say like pancreas they call back every 2 weeks because they'll be outdated, right? But
Well, there was that trial in the U.S. I don't know if John Botton be more with.
yeah,
Remember the one that you had sent?
the one that I was like really specifically interested in was like this RMC 6236, and they're doing like a phase. It is phase 1, but it's phase 1B of something, right? And they have published like their initial results with it. I'm not saying like I don't know what is the definition of like success in it, but it was like, I think it was like 40% had
A benefit.
a benefit, like it wasn't, and then like something like 10% had a complete response, right? But
That one was in the U.S.
yeah, that's one, and they are doing that at John Hopkins. So I know that when you apply, like, because they give us the the patient referral, and then when you do that, they basically review you against the trials they have or something. So I'm hoping that would be an in-way, because like when you try and contact them, you're going through the medical company, and it's just a message, right? Like,
So I was saying, medical records, of course, Darlene, our medical records can help put together anything for the U.S.
yeah.
And I'm not allowed to formally refer you to the U.S., where I would like to be included on it. Like, please include that email.
Okay. Like I'm basically just spending like, I mean, the majority of the time is like, you get matched with these trials, and then I try to go through them and see if there's anything that does exclude it, because it's like, they might recommend that. And then in the very bottom it says like any like omenta or para something involvements, like, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Yeah.
I know it's really tough
So no doctor from Canada can refer to you.
outside of Canada. Yeah, it's more of a sort of coverage. Yeah, so for things like if there was a clinical trial in Toronto, I could argue that you could get some money back in things because that option isn't available here. Yeah. It's just so I can. I think the legality comes with the U.S. is just we're not covered. Our colleges are not outside of Canada.
Right.
And then the FDA, what they deem to be benefit is different than the Canadians. So our Canadian standards are always lower, not saying better.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's scat.
Yeah, no, I didn't, I wouldn't even think for a second that you wouldn't do this, you know what I mean? Even though it's just that you,
There might be a rare number of docs in Canada who have cross affiliations with, like the Mayo Clinic or Johns Hopkins, but I would say there's not very many. No, because it's hard. Yeah.
But this person, Mel Harport, is a person that sent an email about the international patient
Unless I had
or illness. Yeah. So Christopher send off the stuff, their records.
Yeah, the
Or he sends it. So I'm going to contact her again now. He haven't got in yesterday, so I'll contact her again tomorrow.
Yeah, and our medical records right next to here, they close at 4, but they can easily make you a package like all this ear science and that kind of stuff, yeah. And they can electronically send stuff for you too.
Yeah. So I just feel like it's like I said, I use that word overwhelming too much, but it is. It's like to look at. I said today I take this, but like I say, well, I'm sitting down and see, but it's like
It's not very light read.
and even the medication. I mean, I know them side being put for and that stuff, but some of them, it's like
Because I got to go right now, you would know.
no, and I got to go back and read a paragraph now 3 or 4 times before I can absorb, and even then, it's like, what's that about again? So
it must be bad for someone who's not educated to try to grasp this stuff. Because I think to back in time with Dad, they cancer, right?
Yeah, I still have patients who can't read or
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, Dad had no
Yeah.
and education to say past, I don't know, grade 5 or whatever. My mom never knew nothing of it, so we would have been so far away.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's why I say like the Christopher and Bethany.
Yeah.
That could be maybe one of the benefits of AI for sure.
yeah, for sure.
Instead of a physical person, we have AI that can run this stuff for us. Yeah.
It's just clerical stuff, basically, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
It is.
yeah.
Are you okay to keep going with the treatments for now?
Oh yeah. Like I find it, and well, that's my next. I find it uncomfortable. Like I said the other night, and one day I spent in Daybreak because I took the Zofran. I just said to Barry, it's just way more comfortable to be in bed and then I'm a sofa kind of thing. And like sometimes, and I did a little bit nauseated, but I wouldn't say no. I'm going to give up until at least I get a scan and see, and then maybe at the break or something like that. But well, having said that, I'm glad I don't think I had to go for chemo this week. Yeah, because it gives you that little bit of time to recoup, you know. And well, there was something I had to add. Well, yeah, when you said about the chemo, when I saw you last time, yeah, you know, the goat, or like after these doctors now, yeah, and I get a scan done, is there a maximum amount of chemo that you can get according to standards, or how does that work?
No, certain chemos, yes. Oh, certain chemos that there's a maximum for. One is called doxorubicin because it's hard on your heart. But no.
Okay.
But there are clear guidelines of when we would have to stop.
Okay.
So one would be something called resist criteria. So that means how big things have grown.
Yeah.
And or if there's new areas.
Yeah.
And then the question is about when I think about your dosing. Do you remember we talked about trying to go to 100% again of the previous chemo? Yeah. There's clear guidelines, for example, that where you ended up in hospital previously are not allowed to go back up to other dose. Oh yeah, 100%. For you, no or none. Yeah. Oh, so no recovery because I don't want to get out of the pleasure track. Yeah.
So I kind of thought that after his next couple of doses of chemo,
Yeah.
that's all okay.
No. So if knock on wood, not if, when, if things are stable, things are shrunk amazing. If things are stable, you can keep going as long as your blood work and you are feeling okay. If things are even a little tiny bit bigger, but not 25% bigger, we could potentially keep going. If things have spread, that's when we'd have to stop. But it's not a maximum dose.
Yeah. Is chemo or all chemo?
We don't have any other options after this. So. And that's the real stickler why I'm trying to, yeah.
And so,
but it's not a number dose if that makes any sense at all. You've not reached a limit. It's just how is the cancer respond?
yeah. Okay. So if there's any response other than it has a significant growth or spread, that he could carry on.
Yeah.
With the gemcitabine.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And like there's nothing with regards to, I know some like people say they'd had radiation, I guess, or pain control, exhausting and whatever.
Radiation could still be considered for local areas that are causing pain.
Okay.
There's also an ongoing clinical trial for many years that's looking at radiations of the liver for pain, but it's in patients who don't have chemo options. And it's not, radiation is similar in terms of we don't think it really helps control the cancer a lot, but it can help with pain.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It's called HE1. It's a clinical trial that's been open for like 15 years or something. Yeah. So there is an option of radiation for comfort, for pain.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was basically my understanding of it. And with regards to
Right now,
on like a chemo.
no, it's like you said that. So, search or
I wish you
and
see. Well,
Not bad with that. I already do have it. Yeah.
oh,
So
funny stupid. What? So, like, why wouldn't he not like the first chemo? First of all, is working perfect. Not gonna wait right now.
Yeah.
And then she got sick and had to change.
yeah.
So why can't you go back at the beat?
We did go back at that other one.
No, again.
So because it grew a second time. The third, yeah, bigger. It won it last time. Yeah.
Oh, that was 80%.
And we can't go to her stone. Because she ended up in hospital on 100%. Yeah.
So can't you take a chance and then see?
Legally, no.
No?
Right.
I mean, I don't, you know your work. I know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now you're single from like that.
Yeah.
For your,
Yet I do have to say from my clinical experience and lots of evidence, going up on the percentage doesn't help. It's more the type of chemotherapy. So that's why I thought about not doing 100% and switching it back to something different.
Yeah.
I had to say, I've never seen a patient that that didn't end up in hospital, but just felt really unwell, 180, and said, I want to try 100. I've never seen that then works. Because it's basically, if you think about it, it's like a maze. The way I explain it, it's like a maze and the cancer is trying to get through it. When you switch up the maze, it's way better because the cancer is like, I don't know how to grow here.
Yeah.
But if it's the same maze, that cancer eventually learns to grow around it. So we usually have to switch type versus increase the dose. Yeah. And then in pancreatic cancer, and I might just have one more minute's worth. Yeah. There's only really 2 different types, right? It's really frustrating. Breast cancer, there's 20. So there's really only 2 different families. Yeah. And I'll be really honest with you, in places like Toronto, they don't often let you go back to something that your cancer has grown on. We're lucky in Newfoundland right now. It's starting to happen where we have someone who's a manager that polices what we give and will actually decline what we give. So going back to the same chemo again is often in other provinces, the government won't let it happen. Yeah.
I was just curious. It's just like,
And well, more than I necessarily, that was one of the conversations and the sport groups. This guy, Steve Marlin, I told you about, he's done research. Anyway, that's what he was saying about some of the meds. It's not like they work at lower doses as well as higher doses.
Yeah.
So
Because we have no idea what dose someone needs. We just base it on height and weight. Yeah. But we don't know what you actually need, right? And how you metabolize it.
Yeah. So it's like some doses you have to have, 10 milligrams in order to get to work. Well, with chemo, it can be, there's a range.
Yeah.
Being taken.
Yeah.
Till it's.
And the dose gets smaller naturally when people have taken a lot of chemo because your body just can't.
Yeah.
A quick question. This is it now. This like RAS. So KRAS like G12D. So it's under what they call like MPAC pathway. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So would you consider that like it was like a targeted treatment, or it's more of a?
It is. So what this pathway is sort of like a cell proliferation pathway. So it's how cells can divide. So in terms of you have a KRAS mutation, right? They're trying to think.
Yeah, G12D. That.
Yeah. So it's trying to basically switch off that pathway that's causing the cells to proliferate. Yeah. And this is the one in the U.S.?
No, this was in Canada. Different site. Yeah. Bunch of different sites, but
And so you see it's a phase 1 and 2. So
yeah, one is yeah.
So I've heard a lot about these PARP inhibitors. Is they, what is it?
you know her access to serum in Newfoundland for pancreas. And I think they use it in gynecology cancer scare. So I've never used them myself. Yeah, I think it has to do specifically with. Did you ever have BRCA mutation testing?
Like the BCR. Yeah. Negative.
No. I think it's in patients that have that mutation that they have access to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I remember reading it.
Because that's why I say it's a lot of information to take in, and it's like.
And I think the ideas are thrown out there. Yeah, I always think about the clinical trial 2 years ago that was in Thai Medigi. And it was 100% of metastatic rectal patients got a complete response to their treatment. And you're like, whoa, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But what they didn't tell you is it was only 17 patients. And it was 3% of the population that has a specific marker that they knew the treatment was going to work. Yeah, right? So a lot of these treatments, when you think about PARP inhibitors, people say, yo, how come you haven't tried it? But yeah, like the understanding about how unfortunately it doesn't work for it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, like they say with all this, is that if you don't have the knowledge of it,
Well, anyway, well, answer as many questions as possible.
Yeah, I know. It's just, I know. Look, I could keep you here for a week. No.
And it'd be my pleasure. I wish I had time to.
Well, it's just like to say, someone will say something to you, it's like reading stuff. And some of that, just those couple of pages now I've read over 2 or 3 times. And I got to say, what was that? I got, even now with stuff on TV or just in a magazine, I got to kind of, yeah.
So just specifically, do you know of any like organizations, or is this something that they would do here that would anybody like, how could you ever get somebody to sit down with you and be like, with a medical background and go over any kind of results that you're interested in?
So unfortunately, it's doing what you're doing, trying to find specific trials, and I can always answer specific questions. Yeah.
Okay.
But no, there should be And Greg's cause doesn't do that, do they?
They will, yes, they will help. She said to me,
Yeah, so reach out to
Karen
her.
said to me on Monday night, she said, Heather, we can help you with that issue. So,
Sisters that work with them too. Yeah.
contact her. Yeah. Yeah. And and this guy, Steve, he said to me, if there's anything that he can help with. But it's different with Craig's cause, I guess, because that's their focus. But like with Steve, he'll help. But I mean, I don't I could be, like I say, hours sitting down asking questions, and he's got a lot of stuff on the go. So, but anyway, once I sit down, I said to Christopher, you print it out so I can highlight stuff.
And I think having reviewers from because she sort of apologized the first time. I said, please don't apologize. I think having someone like Malcolm Moore review is a pretty good indicator. Like he would have his fingers on what's available to you in Canada.
Yeah.
It's just the big question. And please let me know, is there something in the U.S. that we don't have for HE? Yeah.
So now I'm willing, like I say, to go down and see someone down there, and maybe, I don't know, maybe there'll be something different that like I say, I don't feel like he would mislead me and say, just for purposes of, seeing what happens. I think he's.
I think the big thing with him is like, I don't know, they're so close to the trials, especially the ones the targeted ones that we're looking at. Though I hope somehow she's got this kind of like personal, right?
Which is great. You have to use it. Let me know.
Yeah. Well, the situation, money talks.
Yeah.
No, we're not. No, here. We just, we don't know him from Adam.
No. That's great of him.
Oh, and you got the email about the Princess Margaret thing, right? The referral.
Yes, so we were saying Malcolm Moore sort of said not to do a referral to Princess Margaret.
Oh, if it said not to do a referral, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
I didn't feel there would be anything that would be a real
A real benefit.
There are two pros and cons. That's what I said.
Because she was referred formally last year. Dr. Moore reviewed it last year. I think that's how you guys got the Canadian of it. Yeah.
Okay.
But he mentioned in the email, he said there's not a clinical trial right now.
Look for that way. Okay. Okay.
And I appreciate that. Like someone could say to me, yes, Heather, do this trial. You go and you're away from everybody for 6 months, or
I think there's truly a lack of trial.
weeks or whatever. Yeah. Look, and then that's what I said to Christopher. Sometimes when someone doesn't tell you what you want to hear, I know it's frustrating. Look, it's like,
So what do you know, like there's no trials about? So tomorrow something will come up.
just gotta keep looking.
So would that change? Like, I know they said not to referral now, but if there were new trials offered or something, and you had a referral by a clinic, is
My worry, I don't think there's anyone in Toronto sort of thinking about you about a trial that opened up. So I always say, if you find something, please keep testing.
Okay. So. We're about 5 right, each is so busy.
That's what I say. I know.